we have with us today Riley Clemmons. Riley, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we do Instagram stalking when we know who we're interviewing, and you posted a video a while back, I believe in the summertime, of you brushing your teeth in your car.
Oh,
And
heavens.
I
That
have
thing?
been I have been known. I've brushed my teeth in the car before, but I've also put my socks and shoes on while driving, which I don't recommend. But um, yeah. So,
Whoa, a
is this
skill
something you
set.
do all the time? Brush your teeth in the car?
No, I'm working on my time management skills. Listen, I'm like, oh, I have 20 minutes. I have so much time to do a full face of makeup and get ready. And then when I never do, the last thing is always brushing my teeth. And so on that day in particular, I was in a hurry. Um, And I wasn't driving. I wasn't driving. Somebody else was driving, but I got in the car. I was like, I'm going to have to make this work. And I'm going to have to spit my toothpaste out the window.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, I mean, yes. Yes, I did that. And would
yeah.
I do it again? Absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, with our first time guest, we'd like to just ask, how did you get your start in music, CCM industry, things like
Mm,
that?
that's a that's a great question. I mean, it's a really weird story. I am a born and raised Nashvilleian. I've grown up in the city. I've been around music my whole life. A huge part of what I grew up around is songwriting and music culture. My mom was in the choir at church, and that was what made me fall in love with music is seeing my mom, the whole choir, singing about something that clearly meant a lot to them. Even as a little
Hmm.
kid, before I really knew the big picture of it, I could tell that they were singing about something that was important. And so I'd always been drawn towards music, written songs in my bedroom as a kid, the typical, but I met a manager when I was 13, and from there started co-writing, which was a crazy experience. And signed my first publishing deal when I was 15, and signed a record deal when I was 17, 18. And so here I am. It's been such a crazy journey, but I've been writing songs and making music for a long time now. And it's just been an absolute dream come true, full of ups and downs and all this stuff.
Yeah, and here you are now, and you just released a brand new album, Church Pew, which is out, and we love it. We're fans
Thank
of it,
you.
and so tell our listeners about this album.
Oh, this album, granted, this is the perfect segue. I just kind of gave you the Cliff Notes version of my story and experience. I think starting to create and write music at such a young age, so much of what I was doing in studios was learning and being a sponge and soaking up as much as I possibly humanly could. So when I would go into studios and write with these incredible producers and writers, I would look around and see Grammys and doves on the walls and be like, "Oh my goodness, I'm just gonna learn and
Hmm.
assume that everything that they do is right." And I mean, these incredible songwriters, that was such a gift to get to learn. I think that what I didn't realize is that it takes time to go from learning other people's writing styles and learning how other people create versus how to become your own artist and how to become your own person as a songwriter and find your own voice. And that takes time. It really does. It just naturally takes time. And so this album, Church Pew, feels like the first time that I've really found my voice as a songwriter, as an artist, as a woman of God, all of those things. And I think the storytelling of the album really showcases that in a special way. So this is my favorite album I've ever made, and I'm so excited for people to hear it. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
deeply personal and just full of my stories.
yeah. The song that we like out of the album, I mean, of course, all of the songs are great, but we really like the song "Miracle."
Thank you so
Could
much.
you tell our listeners the story behind that song?
Yeah, I mean, growing up in the industry, I think for the longest time, I, it was mostly I was putting it on myself looking back, but I would never share anything about my personal dating life or
Hmm.
all of that stuff. And for this record, a huge part of what's inspired my life has been falling in love. And the kind of falling in love that points at Jesus, that shows you more of his heart. And that's been a huge, very transformational experience in my life in terms of growing into a woman. And as I was dreaming up this album and the tracks that would be on the album, I really felt a strong nudge that that was a theme that I needed to share and talk about, not only for myself, but because when I was 13 years old, I wished that there were more songs that talked about the beautiful, healthy, godly kind of love
Hmm.
that's important in the lives of people. And a song that started very personally from that experience has really turned into something way bigger than I thought it would. Of people using the song to talk about uh, their significant others, that their husband or wife, and sharing their wedding photos, to miracle babies, to people talking about their kids or talking about their best friends. And it's just been a really, really beautiful experience to get to watch that song meet people where they're at. So that's
Yeah.
always a gift. Yeah.
Now, how long did the process of this album take? Like, did you start for some time, or has this been something that you've been working on for quite some time, or is it something just God just downloaded in you and you just within 6 months or something, had it all figured out, the album, or how was that process?
A bit of both.
Yeah.
So I will say the actual writing process from the first session that we wrote for the album to the very last was 6 weeks,
Okay.
which is really fast.
Yeah.
Just for context, my past records have taken 2+ years.
Hmm.
It's been a long process. But for this album, the writing was really quick. I think there was so much intention in terms of I knew what I wanted to say and who I wanted to write it with, and a lot of that came from prior to making the album. It was top of 2022. And I was just in a place of creative burnout. I'd been writing for so many years since I was a kid. I grew up writing. I hadn't really stopped. I had been, doing the grinding where I'm like in and out of the studio every day, and just creating and exercising that tool, which I think is very important. But I had gotten to a place where I was creatively burnt out. I was putting so much and finding so much of my self-worth and my productivity and um numbers and stats, and I had just gotten to a place where I was honestly sad. I was
Mm.
really anxious, struggling with intense OCD, and I felt a strong confirmation from the Lord that the healthiest thing that I could possibly do is just press pause. And so I didn't write or create. I did the shows that we had left that year, and most of the year was just getting quiet with the Lord and rediscovering what I have to say at 23 years old
Mm.
versus 15, and what
Hmm.
that means to grow and finding my voice again. And so from that period of time off, song ideas started coming very quickly, and um, I knew who I wanted to do the record with, and there was just a very clear vision. Um, and with that being said, when we started creating and writing, the record just fell out very fast.
Well, that's awesome. That's incredible. Riley, this podcast is for fans by fans, and so we will let our listeners know who we are interviewing. And we had a fan of yours, Sarah from Boston, Massachusetts, wants to know the story behind your song, Fighting for Me. She says it's been her theme song for her life, and thank you for being a light.
Oh, that's so sweet. You said Sarah is her name?
Sarah, uh
Sarah from Boston. Hi, girl. Hi, Sarah from Boston. Thank you for your question. I wrote Fighting for Me when I was 19, 18 or 19. And the story of that song really was born from the first time that I was experiencing true anxiety. I remember walking into the studio, and the people I was writing with, my friends, Jordan and Ethan, could definitely tell that there was something going on. We'd known each other, and I just remember having this conversation with them of like, I just don't feel strong. I don't know how to fight for myself right now. I feel like when the anxiety gets to feel so overarching and I'm nervous and I feel isolated and alone. And we started having this conversation of, besides me even, what do all people, no matter their background, no matter their age, no matter where they come from, no matter what they believe, what do people want at our core desire? Because we all have those feelings of anxiety, of if it's not anxiety, it's something else like depression or sorrow or whatever it is. What do all people want? And it came down to this idea that at the end of the day, people want to be fought for in a way that shows up as unconditional love. And the transformational love I know to do that is the love of Jesus. And so fighting for me was born from, honestly, a place of anxiety, of needing to know that even when those feelings feel really intense, I can lay down my armor because I don't have to fight for myself. The Lord will fight for me. All I need to do is be still.
Yeah.
And so that's been a song that's gotten me through a lot too. So I appreciate that question.
I think it's pretty amazing how God works. You said you were battling anxiety and stuff when that song came about, and then your album, Church Pew, you just took time off and just, basically was just like, okay, God, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And so like he uses our weakness for his goodness, and he uses us the most. I see from time to time when we're at our weakest or lowest, that's when he'll use us the most, because he gets all the glory. So
it's so good.
Yeah.
He uses broken people.
Yeah, that's right. So you had mentioned a little bit earlier, you were talking about your writing process, but normally how does the writing process work when you are writing songs?
It's always different. It's always different. I think every song has its own personality and its own story. So even within Church Pew and the songs on the record, some of them started as just titles. Church Pew was just a phrase. Church Pew. I just had it in the notes section of my phone. I was drawn towards the nostalgia of what a church pew represents and was very inspired to kind of start there in the tapestry of this record. Church Pew started there. There was a song called The Power on the record that started with the bass riff at the top. My buddy Jordan started playing that doom doom da da ba dum bum, and that really propelled the idea of the feeling and the attitude of the song. I'm trying to think of different experiences in writing this record. A song called Loved by You on the album. We walked into the studio and it was one of our final sessions for the album, and I remember my co-writer saying, well, what do you feel like you haven't said yet for this record? And immediately was like, I want to write something really simple that reminds people that they're loved by God. And from there, I was like, okay, let's write a song called Loved by You and remind people that they're loved by God. It's always different. This Side of Heaven started with this idea of what my Nana would say to my late Aunt Sharon, and the story of grief and how that is a messy experience. All the different moments on the album are very different. One of my other favorite stories is for a song called Fear Not. It's up at the beginning of the record. It started based on a poem that my friend Paul Duncan brought into the studio. He had that first verse as a stanza of a poem, and we continued to write the song out like a poem. So that's another fun story. There are tons of fun stories for this record.
That's great. Well, we like to do also with our first time guests is we do like a kind of get to know you thing, and we title it Favorite Things. And so I'm just going to give you a word and you tell me your favorite thing.
Oh, okay. I can do that.
Right. Yeah. So what is your favorite food?
Pasta.
Pasta. Okay. Yeah. Just any kind of pasta, or
I'm just a pasta girl. I love just a good classic spaghetti.
Yeah.
That typically is one of my favorites, or like a cacio e pepe.
Yeah.
But I love a pasta.
Okay. What do you have a favorite movie?
Oh no. The age old, you ask somebody their favorite movie, they can't remember a single movie they've ever seen in their life. Yeah, I'm sure I do have a favorite movie. I just can't think of any I've ever seen before. Oh my goodness. I go back to growing up, I loved Finding Nemo. That's still one of my favorites. I love Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Do you have a show that you binge?
I watch Gilmore Girls often,
Okay, there you go.
especially during the fall. That's when I turn on and just is in the background of everything.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite artist of all time?
Aretha Franklin, one
Okay.
of my favorites. Yeah,
What about
especially her
a
gospel stuff. It's so good.
yeah? What
Dolly
about a
Parton too, though. I
okay?
love Dolly.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah,
Do
lots
you
of lots of faves.
do you have a dream duet?
I've always said Stevie Wonder
Okay, we get him a
since
lot.
I was like 16 when people first started asking that question. I would said Stevie. Um, Stevie. Who else? I
Dolly.
mean, Dolly. I know. I feel like I can't even say that out loud, but yeah, Dolly would be great. I'd love to collaborate with Dolly, the icon, the legend.
Well,
Love
I mean, you
Dolly.
are getting ready to go on tour with Zach Williams, and he knows her. I mean,
I'm
it
like,
looks like
listen,
so. There
if
you
you
go.
have Dolly's cell phone number, just send it to me. We don't have to talk about it. Just send it.
Do you have a favorite ice cream flavor?
Yeah, I am a mint chocolate chip kind of girl,
Okay,
or cookie dough, or cookies and cream. Yeah,
all right.
I like the heavy flavors. I like to
Yeah,
feel full.
bunch of stuff. All right. Do you have a favorite podcast?
Yeah, probably the Christian Music Guys podcast.
All right, good job. You get an A
Yeah,
plus.
excellent. I know this game.
There you go. Do you have a favorite Bible verse
Oh man.
or go-to verse or
Of course. I mean, a lot come to mind. I would say that right now, maybe it's a little bit of an unexpected one, but John 11:35, Jesus wept, inspired one of the songs on the album called Jesus Cries. But I found myself in this season going back to that story in
Mhm.
John 11 quite often, just to remind myself of the empathy of Jesus. I think that's been such a massive theme in my walk with my faith lately, and so yeah, I would say that that's been a favorite lately.
Yeah. Well, Riley, what is next for you, and how can our listeners keep up with you?
I'm gonna play this record live, so you can go to my website and stream the record, listen to the songs. I love touching base with people on my social media, so drop me a comment or a DM, and I love chatting. But we're doing that, and we're going on tour with Zach Williams this fall and this Christmas, which is gonna be
Mhm.
so much fun. Um, yeah, I mean, just all the good things, all the fun things.
Yeah. Speaking of Christmas music, I know you've released a few songs, but we want a full album. Is there
I also want to do a full Christmas album, so
okay?
stand by. We are gonna do one.
Not this year though. It's kind of too late.
It's too late. It's too late, but next
Yeah.
year, maybe next year.
Yeah. So to wrap up, I'd like to see if you'd be willing to share something that God has been doing, maybe even recently in your life, that would help build our listeners' faith.
Oof, man, that's good. God has been so intentional right now with a lot of things. I think that for me, the running theme of what I'm continually learning in this season comes back to identity. I think that we live in a cultural moment where identity is easily lost. Just the nature of social media and constantly looking at what other people are doing, and there's so many reasons to forget who we are in this time and culture. But I think that's something that God has shown me through that season of burnout, through that season of feeling like so much of my worth was tied into what I could do or how I could perform. God has been so intentional in reminding me that my identity comes from Him, and that my identity is being loved by Him. And that is very counterculture right now. It's very counterculture that worth comes from just simply being and simply being a child of God. But God is working on that in me, and I just want to tell people that it's true, and it's helping me to believe it as well. So that's a big one right now.
Yeah, that's good. Someone used to say, "I may not be what I want to be, but thank God I'm not what I used to be." So
Hey,
he's
that's good right
he's still
there.
working on us.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Riley, so much for chatting with me this afternoon. Church Pew is out. Stream it. Is it on vinyl? Is that coming or?
Vinyl is available. You can order it
Okay.
on my website. The vinyl is I had a dream, I had a vision, but the vinyl itself looks like the wood of a church pew, which is
Nice.
I just love it. It
Yeah.
scratches an
Maybe
itch in my
the
brain.
bubble gum stuck to it and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe. Just to really give it some character.
There you go.
Hey y'all, this is Riley Clemmons, and you're listening to the Christian Music Guys podcast.